My mom was a teenage mom. My dad went to jail. Like, I remember sleeping in sleeping bags with 5 kids in a 2-bedroom apartment. Like, we were in the free lunch line. I was an alcoholic. I'm now 2 years sober.
Hey everybody, today I'm here with my good friend from afar, Chelsea Wright, who I've met 2 years ago on an app that some of you may know is called Clubhouse. Chelsea, thank you so much for joining me today.
I'm so excited to be here, and I'm excited to see your face and not a profile picture. So,
I guess I lagged out a bit there.
yeah, it's okay. I was expecting it.
But yeah, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So I've got to know you over the last 2 years through chatting with you in different Clubhouse rooms, sharing our knowledge. But today, this podcast episode is going to be about you, a little bit about your journey, what you've built, and what you look forward to, and what you're most excited about. Because I think you have a lot to share with new agents and experienced agents out there. So, who is Chelsea? Tell us about you, how you got started in the business, and a little bit about your organizations.
So I have a really unique journey to real estate because most people only experience the sales side or they only experience the operational side. But I can proudly say I've had every job this industry has to offer. And so when I first got started, I was an ISA and I made phone calls for 8 hours a day, setting appointments for other agents. And then I became a buyer's agent on a team and I did like 28 units my first year. And from that, I became the director of operations for a early expansion team. So like this was right when teams became popular and like there was a lot of like drama in the air and people were going across state lines. And so I helped a company scale from 27 agents to 264 in less than 2 years, all through operations and leadership. And so that journey was one that was both transformative and brutal. And so through that process, I was working like 80 hours a week. I mean, there was one point where like I vividly remember not seeing the sunshine for like 30 days because I would get to the office at like 6 a.m. before the sun had come out. And then I was leaving at like midnight. And so when I reached kind of a breaking point, I took a year off from real estate and just like recalibrated. And I think that that was right about the time when I met you. And so I had launched a transaction management company because I love operations and why not, right? And then a year later, I launched my own real estate team. And so we're like a year and a half in. And I also, because I've been in leadership and I've been coaching on sales and operations for 5 years now, I coach leaders in the industry on how to connect with their truth and how to scale their business in a way that doesn't lead to burnout. So that's where I'm at now. And that's kind of where I've been.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. 80-hour weeks. Now, I think the question in everyone's mind is, was it worth it?
I think it was. If I definitely am of the belief that everything happens for a reason. And I had a music teacher when I was a kid, and he had this quote that like, you can't have a symphony without silence. And I definitely think that if I hadn't gone through that season of like extreme grit, extreme commitment, extreme burnout, I don't know that I would be as savvy as a business owner as I am today. I also don't think that I'd be as innovative. And so I'm really grateful that I went through it because while there was like a whole lot of trauma involved, on the other side, I'm a much better and stronger person for it. So,
Love that. I
yeah.
think your attitude made the difference, whether it was worth it or not. And I guess it led to the two businesses you own today. If you can share a little bit about what you do in each one and details and numbers about each one, that probably be very helpful for context.
Yeah. So, the transaction management company that I run, we did like 423 files last year,
Amazing.
with one TC and a virtual assistant. And we're profitable. And that's not common for a transaction management business. The profit margins are very slim. And so we've been really strategic about how we integrate software, but we've also been really strategic about how we divide and conquer the like servicing of the files. And so having assistants in the Philippines has been a huge help to us. I also own a real estate company in Portland, Oregon. And so we're a year and a half old. We did 52 units last year. Only like 18 mil in production. It's nothing to like write home about, but it was a foundational year. And so when you're starting a team, it's really important to have your systems developed, but also to create that strong culture with the core group of people before you go and start adding more people to it. And so I think that that's the thing that we really achieved this last year was a tight-knit group of people who are all in step with each other, who prioritize prospecting, prioritize like collaboration and diversity, and are all about building their own businesses. So
Thank you for that. Let me fix my camera. There we go. Cool. It turns off every 30 minutes because of the camera itself. But you shared something I want you to dive deeper in because I'm sure people are going to have questions for. In terms of your TC business, can we dive into what tech stack you have and also where did you find your VA? Because I think there's going to be a lot of people kind of curious how you connected with the person.
yeah, so with the transaction management company, because of the experience that I had in expansion, I was able to kind of streamline a lot of systems through kind of like a bootstrap effort, right? Because I'd already done it across 164 different markets. So to do transaction management only in the state of Oregon and Washington was like so much easier than 26 different states. And so we use Zapier pretty heavily, and it's essentially like a software that gets two applications to talk to each other. If you haven't used it before, or if you're not using it yet, it creates a lot of automation. And then we've just been really strategic about using free technology. So Asana is a project management program that you can fully customize and see at a bird's eye view what's happening within your business. There are other more expensive technology stacks out there. And to each their own. Asana is wonderful and it's free. So that's what we've been really leaning into is making sure that the software that we use is not only functional, but that it protects our profit margin in the end.
Love that. And then where did you find your VA, if people are curious?
Oh, yeah. So, funny story. When you first go to hire a virtual assistant, what most people do is they reach out to the bigger virtual assistant companies. So like Upwork, My Outdesk, Justin Nelson has a great company called Sphere Rocket. And essentially what these people do is they reach out to the community and they like pre-screen and pre-vet and pre-interview. And then they hand you someone who should be positioned to do the work. Mm-hmm. Now, should is the optimal word there. You're essentially paying them to do all the heavy lifting. And what I found through running the expansion team is that my best employees knew other great employees. And I think that that's true in any company. And so I've been really fortunate in identifying extreme talent and having been working with virtual assistants for over 7 years now, And so I have a wait list of people who want to work with me because I'm known to be a reliable and trustworthy employer. And so that's how I find my people, is through referral now.
That's the best route to do it. Your advocates and people that
Yeah.
already know and like you. They know your quality of work and who you are,
Yeah.
right? Now, if
Well,
you can
and I
talk,
find that we have to train regardless. So I think with a lot of people, they hire a virtual assistant through a company and they're expecting them to be like already ready to do whatever lead gen or TC work you want, but each person does it slightly different. So the
right.
training has to be in depth. It has to be detailed. And if I'm going to already go through that process, then I might as well like cut out the middleman.
Can't agree with you more. So many people I've seen make the mistake of expecting really high expectations the moment the virtual assistant starts. Yet we do have to spend a lot of, not a lot of time, but you do have to spend time to make sure that they know exactly how you do things, because your standards are very different from, let's say, anyone else, right?
Yeah,
If you could,
absolutely.
if you could elaborate as well on the team side, you had a foundational year in your team building career for real estate. Can you talk to us a little bit about maybe some of the priorities that you guys had implemented or systems you built, and maybe define what culture means to you?
Yeah. So for us, one of the biggest things is because I've coached hundreds of real estate agents and have been in a leadership space for a while, I have a track record of getting people into production within less than 60 days. And that's just through like extreme training, extreme accountability, but also like being the like rah rah cheerleader, I'm going to believe in you more than you believe in you kind of a person, right? And so, where I think that the team had the greatest opportunity for growth was stepping outside of average production and being unsatisfied with good. Like selling 12 houses a year, sure. Are you doing better than what most people did in 2022? Yes. Is it still enough to live the life that you dream of? No. And so I think that good has been the enemy of great for our team, and setting higher expectations and higher standards around production, specifically through integrating SISU into our team's day-to-day life, has made a significant difference. Like one of my agents has gone from, she did 17 units last year. She's already at, I want to say 9 units this year. Like she's averaging 3 a month. And so that's great, like significant progress now that she can see the numbers and measure her effort and keep track of exactly what levers to pull in order to get a bigger and better business. So
Love that. Now we just adopted Sisu as well. We moved away from spreadsheets and CTE. For those that don't know what Sisu is, can you share with us what it is in your eyes, and then maybe what you use specifically about it that helps you keep your agents accountable? It sounds like.
yeah. So the biggest thing, especially as a coach, right? Like I coach a lot of leaders within the industry, and I hear from them like, I can't get my team to submit their numbers. And I'm like, well, if that's your attitude about it, I'm not surprised, right?
Right.
Because it's not for you, it's for them. And for me, the like major shift in numbers becoming a priority was when I got sober, because I know exactly how many days sober I am, because it is one of the most important pieces of my life, right? And so if I can't tell you like how many conversations I've had, or like what my production is, or how much money we've made, how important then is my business? And so, what we've done as a team is we have connected our agents' numbers to like what is the highest importance to them. And so that way they have like, one, a sense of control and a sense of pride, but number two, so they can like clock off. And I think that that's the
Mhm.
biggest thing, is like a lot of agents complain that they can't take a vacation, and they can't take a vacation because they don't trust themselves. And they don't trust themselves because they don't know their numbers. They don't know how much effort, how much commitment, how much sacrifice it's going to take for them to make up for that 1 week off, for that 2 weeks off, for those 3 weeks off. And so SISU is essentially like software that allows agents to track their effort from conversations to appointments set, to appointments gone on, to agreements signed, to what's under contract, to what's closed, and have access to it every day in the palm of their hand. So now at the end of the day, when they get that phone call from that super needy seller who's like not remotely going to list anytime soon, they can hit forward to voicemail, right?
We all have those,
Because
by the
they
way.
know they know that tomorrow they're going to follow up, or tomorrow they're going to find a better seller. And so like, I think that that's been the biggest game changer with just specifically integrating SISU is one, giving our agents the like very visible control in their business. But also from a team leader perspective, I can see the ROI on each agent's activities with regard to what kind of leads we're providing. And so one of the other areas in which I see a lot of team leaders bang their head against the wall is they expect everyone to behave exactly the same. And I don't know about you, but like you own a brokerage, right? And I'm a part of a really large brokerage. And when I signed up, I didn't sign up because I was going to do everything exactly how my brokerage told me to. In fact, I signed up for the exact opposite reason. Like I was like, oh, you guys are going to let me do my business how I want to do my business, like, and you're going to give me all the tools and the resources and everything to support me. Wonderful, right? And so when we have this information, instead of handing internet leads to someone who refuses to call them, we're just like, oh, you want to focus on your sphere of influence? Here is the roadmap to that. You're not going to have internet leads because you don't value them, right? And we will invest in you in a different way. And so I think that that's been the other thing that SISU has allowed is for us to be really flexible on the means to the goal, but very accountable to the goal being achieved, if that makes sense.
Yes. There's actually a lot to take note of and digest in what you just shared with us, to maybe make it tangible for someone to walk away with what they should be doing. You mentioned that you are really good at getting agents into productivity within the first 60 days. Are there minimum standards that your team has and maybe you can share with us a little bit of detail on how do you make that happen? Like if I was a new agent, I'm joining your team, what do I need to do? Like, let's say I'm a learner, I'm coachable. Like, what are you going to have me do?
Yeah. So when you are first getting started in real estate, the greatest area of opportunity is your ability to identify who is actually going to buy or sell a house. And I have two very obvious lead sources for you, okay? If you're looking for buyers, it's open houses. Human beings are quite literally walking through the door saying like, I'm interested in real estate, right? And then if you're looking for sellers, it's FSBOs and expireds. They have quite literally raised their hand and said, I want to sell my house at some point. And so all you have to do is develop the skill set to get those people to trust you and to want to work with you. And that boils down to an extreme commitment to communication mastery. And so we do script practice every day for 45 minutes. They get a specific mentor that works one-on-one with them on how they're executing their conversations. We walk them through how to do an open house at a really high level. We walk them through how to do a listing presentation and a buyer presentation really at a high level. And so that's the biggest thing. And then we also encourage them to start building their community. When you get into real estate, you didn't get into it because you wanted a boss. You got into it because you wanted to be your own boss. And so you have to own the fact that you're in sales. And when you're in sales, you need a community to carry you. It's just facts. I don't care if you're like selling your memoir or your coaching or Cutco knives, like there is going to be a community of people who know, like, and trust you and will buy whatever you're selling. So we help them establish that and get everybody's contact information together. We help them send out like a letter to their database explaining like why they're excited about real estate. We give them gratitude gifts to drop off to their database. We give them events to invite their friends and family to. So like there's a lot of opportunity. And then also we put them in front of a camera. So as far as like team standards, at a minimum, you have to have 50 conversations. Notice that I didn't say calls, conversations about real estate. And then you also have to post 5 videos a week. And so we're heavy on making that commitment to showing up and creating a brand because Justin Mercer said it best. Prospecting is like hunting, right? It requires skill. It's very like physically demanding. You have to go out and you have to hunt and you have to find your next like meal. Marketing is like trap setting. And so when you are trap setting, you're putting out effort that is going to pay off at any point, right? And so we want to help our agents do both and be proficient at both. And so that's really what has been effective for us in the past.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's going to resonate with a lot of people. You simplified 2 ways, one to get buyers, one to get sellers, and what you guys focus on. And I think it's simple enough where someone could really apply that today. People will resonate with you more because I'm going to ask you this next question. You weren't always the Chelsea that we see today. Like, you've gone through a lot to get to where you are today, is what I'm trying to say. Is there something you can share with us? I think a lot of people, whether it's struggle in business or had personal struggles that they had to overcome, what's one big fail or one big thing that you had to overcome in your life? Because we're not perfect. And I think people only see what we see right now as the person work in progress. I'm not going to say like the final product because we're not final. We're still learning and growing. But they see you succeeding now. But they also don't see the things that you went through from the 80-hour work weeks that you've encountered before. But is there something you can share with us in terms of what you had to overcome that you feel comfortable sharing?
Yeah, it's funny because I was talking to a friend the other night and they were like, what motivates you to like keep going now? Like, where are you working from? And the biggest failure that I think I had in my life was, I mean, there's so many. Like, I did not have a silver platter situation. Like, my mom was a teenage mom. My dad went to jail. Like, I remember sleeping in sleeping bags with 5 kids in a 2-bedroom apartment. Like, we were in the free lunch line. Like, we went through a lot as kids, and then I went through a lot as an adult. I was an alcoholic. I'm now 2 years sober. And so really a lot of my life was driven from this like overwhelming sense that I needed to prove to people that I was smart, or prove to people that I was worthy, or prove to people that like I could be successful. And I think that that's exactly how I got into that 80-hour like work week situation, is that I was so committed to other people's opinions of me and other people's approval that it put me in a really vulnerable place. And so the moment that I realized that like I'm not broken, I am not my childhood, I'm not my trauma, and that focusing on my weaknesses only makes them bigger, and focusing on my strengths would be a much healthier place to operate from. It was a game changer for me. And I think too, like when we first met, one of the pieces of feedback that you gave me was like, I would share really like powerful insights, but then I would like raise the tone of my voice at the end. And it was just because I was like still working from that place of like proving, like I was like really insecure. I'm like, I think that this is a good idea, guys. Anyways, and I integrated that and I was like, no, I know what I'm talking about. Like, I know what works in the real estate space. Like, I have enough experience to say it with some bass in my voice. And so that was the biggest shift was instead of working from a place of eliminating or trying to fix your brokenness or your weaknesses, highlight your strengths. Focus radically on your strengths, no matter how small they are, and just try to make them incrementally bigger and bigger over time. And I swear it becomes so much easier to avoid the like need for approval or to avoid the like embarrassment of failure. You're just like, yeah, failure is part of it. And also I'm really strong in these areas. So like I just learned I'm not strong in that one, you know?
Thank you so much for being transparent and authentic about, your upbringing and the environment that you were in. I think it's going to really help people overcome whatever they need to overcome or go through. You know, I think if you could stay on this subject and maybe go a little deeper, because I think people would benefit from understanding how the way you think. A lot of people would throw a pity party. They would sit in that position that their position is compromised. They were dealt a bad hand. What's your word of advice for people that could be listening to this, are trying to figure out their career, did start, at a disadvantage, so to say? Like, what would you say to them?
How good does that feel? Like if you're sitting there feeling sorry for yourself, are you happy? Are you confident? Do you feel in control? Like you are subscribing to a life in which you're miserable and you don't have to. And I think that that's the like really powerful thing is that the moment that you take responsibility for everything in your life, it is both devastating and empowering, right? Because you realize that like 99% of your problems are your fault. And guess what? 99% of your problems are your fault. So like you can change them. And I think that that's like the biggest thing is really operating from a place of, am I doing what would make me the happiest? Am I doing what would make me the most proud? Am I doing what I know I should be doing? Or am I betraying myself? Am I disappointing myself? Am I continuing the story of like, I can't? And how good does that feel? And why do I choose that over feeling good? And that becomes the question. Because if you're sitting in it for a long period of time, there's something about feeling like shit that serves you that you need to address. And like that's the hardest part is recognizing that like feeling like shit actually feels good sometimes. And you have to make the conscious choice to like go through a little bit of pain to never feel like shit again. Does that make sense?
Yes, I love that. Here's my summary. I heard number one, you can make a choice. It's a choice that you make. And the choice is to take responsibility. I think the key takeaway I had from you when you went through the dialogue of questions was I questions. Am I? And then thinking about or making a decision on. And it's not pointing the finger and blaming the environment or someone else or the circumstance. So I love what you just shared. So thank you so much. I think it's going to be very helpful for other people. Switching gears a little bit, what would you say is the number one quality that you look for in an agent, whether they're going to join your team or they're going to succeed in the business? Like, what's that number one quality?
Okay, so when I first got started, it was resourcefulness. I really love human beings who don't care that they don't know. That like the people who are like, Google exists and therefore I'm powerful, right? And so that was something that has been a big priority. But recently in the last year, the number one thing that I look for has shifted. Instead of resourcefulness being number one, I look for drive and urgency. Is there an urgency to their success? And if there is no urgency, then I'm not the right leader for them. And that's okay. They can go be happy somewhere else, but I just know that I move really fast. And we are constantly growing, we are constantly changing. And so for someone who's wanting to scale at a slower pace, it's just not a good fit. And so that's been the biggest thing, is like looking for that evidence of urgency, looking for that evidence of drive, and then looking for the resourcefulness.
Great. I'm now going to write that down and add that to our criteria for recruiting. Thank you for the cheat
Right?
code and the shortcut. Um, Chelsea, can you share with us what excites you most about the future, whether it's yourself, your personal growth, your businesses? Like, what do you look forward to?
Okay, so I'm actually working on a really fun project right now. Technology really excites me. I think it's why we're friends. Anything shiny comes out, I'm like, I've got to try it, got to test it, got to feel it, like what's going on. And so right now, I am working on a project that could potentially eliminate transaction coordinators. And that is what I'm excited about. And I would love to share more, but I'm at the very early stages of it. But to me, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, I own a transaction management company, I make money off of TCing. And still, it boggles my mind that in this day and age, we are literally paying a human being to look at a piece of paper and to tell us if it was filled out or signed. What? How? Why, right? And so that's what I'm working on right now.
Exciting. Well, I look forward to learning more when you can share. What's the best way people can
Yeah.
find you?
Like a true millennial, Instagram. I mean, I have a website. If you just Google my name, I pop up. But Instagram is the place where I connect with people the most. And so it's at Chel Wright, ChelWright. And yeah, I love like seeing other people's content and collaborating and doing events together. So hit me up there.
I'm fairly certain people will. And anything we miss in our conversation that you feel would be helpful to share?
Oh man. Um, you know, I think the biggest thing is when you're in an industry that has like so many people achieving at such a high level, to continue to foster relationships and to learn from like people who are further ahead of you. Like Wilson, your business is beautiful, and the way that your mind works in investing in like other small businesses, and building yourself a portfolio, like I have definitely taken note. And having friends like you has made all the difference in my career. And so I just want to like encourage other people to like speak up, get in the rooms that you don't belong in, be friends with people who are like further down the road. Like you can learn a lot.
Love that. I think first, thank you for the gratitude. And yeah, people are surprised when they find out that people are more willing to help than they think the other people are. So I appreciate those words of wisdom that you shared. Thank you so much for your time. I think this is going to be very helpful for people. People are going to reach out to you, and hopefully we can look forward to a next one when you can share a little bit more about your journey and
Yeah,
future growth
I
and
would love
the
that.
other things that you're working on. Thank
I
you.
would love that, Wilson. Thank you so much.